if anybody has had a meaningful 2024 as a character development, as actual development to get to where you can move the needle, you can have an audience care about what they're doing, most importantly, show up prior to the fight, not watch the highlights after. You got to understand, there's one word in the entire world that keeps the lights on. It is anticipation. What happened after the fight is not overly relevant and will only be disclosed to you as a way of advertising for the next fight. So if you have a guy that can bring people together, make them stop what they're doing and tune in, whether they're going to cheer for them or against them. But then you have a couple of other opportunities. All lead to that anticipation. You're going to have press conferences. You're going to have weigh-ins. You're going to have face-offs. You're going to have interviews. And if there's anybody from a character development standpoint that changed in 2024, it's Ian Garry. Guys, it was 1 year ago when Ian Garry didn't show up to the press conference, and the whole community was pinning it on him that he was going through the stuff, and just they'd written the book and it was on Amazon and all of these things. Just to remind you though, that was 1 year ago. That was December of last year. In fact, I remember that date very well. It was December 16th. And the reason I have that in my head is that was Colby versus Leon. But that was the very card. And we were wrong. Ian did not call in sick because he was scared of a press conference or because he cared and backed down from the world because of a book that was posted on Amazon. He did not do that at all. And that was one amazing dance. The way that he had to dance while keeping his face of his family and the pride that he had to show. And if anyone ever stuck to the theory, don't ever let them see you sweat, it was Ian Garry. He's the one that could write a top-selling book and post it on Amazon, but I'm sharing for you, this all happened within the last year. The author of the book in California, Volkanovski lost the strap to Ilia Topuria. Ian Garry had a close fight with Jeff Neal. That night, the walkout, there was a cameo by the author of the book, and it was the last thing you saw before he stepped into what used to be known as the Harley-Davidson Check-In Center. I believe now it is just where your coach puts Vaseline on your face. But it was a big deal. I was in that arena. And they popped her up on that screen, and he gave her a last-minute kiss. I mean, it was this incredible thing. And this story was not slowing down. And now you have Ian Garry largely, at least in part, I think largely in part, to doing what he said he would do. And a good salesman is not going to convince you you need the product, or that the product is going to provide a gooder service in your life, or that you can trust in the product, or that the guarantee is worth a damn thing. A good salesman, by the time the pitch was done, will only convince you that he believes it. A good salesman will convince you that he believes that vacuum will make your life better, that he believes the company is worth the guarantee, that he believes the price and the payment plan is the best value in class on the market. That's what the good salesman will convince you of. So Ian Garry, to go out and achieve everything that he said, isn't quite the important part. And it's not quite what he did in 2024. But what he did do is show up. What he did do is show to you that he meant it, that he thought it was real. He agreed to 2 different fights in a 3-week period. He went out and jumped on a grenade that 18 other men have tried to deal with. He went out and entered the 5-round club. He went out and became the first one to win a round against Rakhmonov. It's hard to remember that Ian lost that fight. I mean, I really feel like, I gotta reprogram that. I was a cornerman for Matt Lindland against Rampage Jackson. Way back in the day, WFA. And I would have to remind myself at the post-fight dinner, I guess you'd call it the after party for Matt. I had to keep reminding myself that he didn't win because he did win that fight. He won that fight 2-1. Split decision and goes the other way, and he was going up a weight class to do it. But I got to remind myself, and it's that same way with Ian Garry. I don't feel as though he lost. And now Ian Garry's out putting out an interview talking about, I'm the second best fighter in the world, which no one's going to argue with that. And it doesn't mean that they agree that it's true. There has never been an argument about the second best fighter in the world. Like, where are you going to get that argument? Where are you going to get that shelf space? When is Sports Illustrated going to put this on the cover and go number 2? When is Sports Center going to break it? Like, it's just a very interesting claim that you have the right to because nobody else is saying it. It was fascinating. To watch him proclaim that he is the second best fighter in the world was a fascinating thing. And nobody disputed it. And who's going to? You're not number 2. I'm the second best around here. You lost to Rakhmonov, but you won a round. I'd lose to Rakhmonov, and I would have lost every round. Like, how do you do it? It was a simple comment. But some bitch, I don't think anybody else has ever made it. So then Ian Garry, to prove his point of saying I'm number 2 fighter in the world, said that he should be considered for the title shot. And in a very reasonable situation, that he should be the backup fighter for the title shot. He, of course, is talking about Muhammad versus Rakhmonov when that time comes, that he, Ian Garry, should be placed in the backup position to fill in if something would happen between one of those guys. That sounds like a really great idea. Does anybody disagree? And Ian Garry squeaked past Jeff Neal, which is no easy thing to do, but it was a split decision. He squeaked past him. If there has ever been a draw, like if you were an administrator and you're running a commission, you've got to bring some fight forward to show as an example of a draw. If there was ever a draw in history, it was MVP and Ian Garry. All right, so let's rework this. We start with a split decision over Jeff Neal. We go into a draw with MVP. We finish the year off with a loss. Yeah, I forgot all of those things. I think he should be the backup fighter when that title fight runs. When that title fight comes around. He's the only guy that asked for it. And I don't know that Ian Garry sold and convinced anybody of the bill that he was selling. I don't know that he's sold and convinced everybody that he's the second best fighter in the world. Coming off a split decision, going into a draw, coming off a loss. I don't know about that. But like any great salesman, he is convincing us that he believes it. And if there was a winner for character development in 2024, I give it to Ian Garry.